Love me dearly, and it's nice being a grandpa, sober.
I have the disease of alcoholism, and it still kills people. And I believe it's a disease because I've seen it kill people. On the way over here tonight, I came over from Jeffersonville, and I drove over the I-65 bridge tonight. A bridge 11 years ago I wouldn't even get up on. I was so full of fear. But I came over here tonight in the fast lane on that bridge, and I'll tell you what, and, with no fear. No fear. Thank God to Alcoholics Anonymous. And see, I would never think before I would drink. I would always drink to think, I thought. That's the way I drank. October the 11th, 1983 was my day, and it was on a Wednesday, and I've been sober 11 years, and I look back on that, and God, what a life. You know, see, this is the way I always wanted to be, and always was going to be tomorrow. See, I can stop that drinking anytime I want to. My wife used to say to me, or I would say to her, I can stop drinking anytime I want to, which I knew was a big lie. And I want to tell you something. When you think you can stop drinking, that's when you can't. And then when you think you can't stop drinking, that's when you find out you can't. One day at a time. And that's what I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm here tonight as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous because I want to share with you what it says in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. You know, that's been going on for 59 years, and I'm not going to change that book any. My story is important to me, and there's somebody sitting in here tonight, I'm sure, that I don't know if there's anybody sitting here that sells fish. I sell fish. Our fish don't stink. That's our motto. And, another motto I like, if you think you're tough, try our steaks. It's nice to laugh. It's nice to be up here and not be full of fear. I stuttered all of my life till I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I had speech therapy for it, everything, and I don't stutter anymore. And I remember when I was 9 months sober, and I got home from the meeting one night, my wife said to me, she said, you know what, since you've been going to those meetings, you don't stutter like you used to, and your hair is growing back. And I said, wait till the guys in the group hear that. But I said to her, you know what, I think they slowed me down. I think they slowed me down. Tonight before I got up here, when they read how it works, they get to the ABCs. Hey, I always say, dear God, please help me with my talk. See, I'm not an instructor for Alcoholics Anonymous. We don't have any instructors. You know, we don't have any big shots. One shot, we're all shot. What makes this thing work is sharing, saying, hey, you're welcome here. I don't care how many, you know, from jail or from Yale, it makes no difference. I don't care if you've been here 100 times. Come on in, the arms are always open. We care about you. You know, see, because this might be your day. I didn't know my day was going to be October 11th, 1983. Nothing, I didn't do anything spectacular the night before. I did the same thing I did every Tuesday night. But my wife said to me that morning, she said, aren't you sick and tired of being sick and tired? And you know what, and for some reason that morning I said yes. And that's the night I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I haven't had a drink of alcohol since that night. Thanks to a higher power I don't understand, called the Good Shepherd, I call him, because of the mural in the church that I go to in Jeffersonville, where I used to not be able to sit. I would look at that mural and with my beautiful wife and 3 beautiful kids, and I'd shoot out of that church. I couldn't sit there because of the stuff that alcoholics know. It's guilt, remorse. And I'd look at that stained glass window and the mural of the Good Shepherd up front, and I'd shoot out that door. See, because I felt unworthy. And I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like I was going crazy. And I was. There's a guy that was sitting next to me at the Sunday morning group, the Metro Traditions group, and he always says this, and I love it when he says, it seems to me that there's a lot more grace than there is justice. Yeah, See, I didn't understand grace. I didn't know what grace was. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea that if I could finally admit to another human being that I needed some help, that the help would start. Because I told them my secret. There's something wrong with me. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and we came to Louisville, Kentucky when I was 2 years old, and I come from very loving parents. My father was a very gentle man and a gentleman and a very sick man. He had 4 nervous breakdowns in his life, and he was a devout Jehovah's Witness all his life, and he studied with people all over in their homes, and blacks, whites, whatever, and I guess you could say my dad was a spiritual man because he liked helping people. My mom is 86 years old. She's still living. She was on the radio here for years on WHAS and WAVE, and her name was Dixie Lee. She played the piano, sang, never had a lesson in her life, still plays the piano for her friends' weddings and funerals, and still hides a Sterling beer behind the milk carton in her icebox. Because, see, when I went to her and she found out that I had been going to AA, she said, I don't care where you go as long as you don't drink. And she said, I thought that stood for the Automobile Club. I said, no, Mom, that's for alcoholics now. She said, if you stop drinking, I'm going to stop drinking too. I said, well, you don't have a problem with alcoholic. Well, if you're not going to be drinking, I'm not going to be drinking either. But every time I go up there and open up that icebox, there's that Sterling beer hiding behind that milk carton back there. My mom and dad divorced when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and were divorced for a year and remarried. And I had a hard time forgiving my mom for that. Of course, I always blamed her, and not my father's sick condition. But I have a good relationship with my mom today, and she's a wonderful woman. She's a very extraordinary person, no doubt about it. She can do anything, and it's nice to have a good relationship with your mom again. I always like to start off with this. The 3 alternatives for the alcoholic, and if you don't remember anything else that I say today, remember these 3: locked up, covered up, or sobered up. Thank God there's one called Sobered Up, and thank God for something called Alcoholics Anonymous, which has been so good for me in my recovery. Thank God we still have these meetings, and thank God we still have these people sitting in here saying, Dave, you're okay, we love you, come on in here. That's what makes this thing work. And see, an alcoholic, I love the definition that I heard a long time ago, is someone who has their feet firmly planted in midair. We understand it. We understand that, I think. We moved to Jeffersonville when I was a sophomore in high school in 1947. And I still hold the record. I was a stellar athlete, and I still hold the record at Jeffersonville High School for shooting at the wrong basket 2 times in one game. Now, when you're new in Jeffersonville and you don't know anybody, and you do something like that when you first get over there, and they call me Wrong Way Inman for a long time. But I fell in with some guys, 8 or 9 of us, every Friday night. We'd get $2.40 in our allowances, and we'd buy us a case of Farr's beer for $2.40, 24 bottles, and we had an old Model A4, and I'd sit in the back of that car, and I was the keeper of the beer, and I'd hand it out, always bottles, cold bottles. I hated the taste of it, except when I got that first one down, I was okay. And then, how do they make something so good and sell it so cheap? God, this stuff is great. And I'm like my friend used to say, Dave, I used to walk in those bars and drink, be nice and quiet. I'd drink 4 or 5 of them beers, and I'd stick on my Superman cape. See, that's what alcoholics do. The book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Dr. Silkworth says this about alcoholics. I take a drink. It sets up a phenomenon called craving. And I can't stop. Phenomenon. I didn't understand, that was me, because see, every time I got that first one down, I was ready to go. I had to have more. It was a haul, and I would get it. I'd get it, always. And that was the start. And after high school, I had got me a job at the First National Bank downtown at 5th and Market in the bookkeeping department with 32 girls and me. I loved that job. It was the greatest job I ever had. And especially loved the bank parties because they had the open bars and I could drink all I wanted. And by that time, I had become a hog because once I started, that craving, that phenomenon would click in, and man, you know, I developed a high tolerance for alcohol. I'd go with the best of them, you know. And I finally wound up becoming a beer drinker because it seemed like I could get away with that without too much hassle from my wife. In that bank job, there was a guy in that bank, and he was the vice president of that bank, and he always wore the button-down shirts, striped ties, which is all I wear, and he had all the girls, and I wanted to be exactly like that guy. 33 years later, I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. There he was sitting there. I got my wish. I'm just like him. But see, he had lost his wife. He had lost everything. But he found a new life in Alcoholics Anonymous. He had been sober 9 years when I hadn't seen him since 1950. And he was so happy. Surrender to win. That's what he had done. And I don't know, seeing him there was just one of those little things that kind of put the scotch tape on me coming back. And after high school, I went into the Korean conflict. My dad didn't like it, but I thought I should go, and I spent 2 years in the Army. But luckily, I came back, and I had no real difficulties. I was a bartender at the NCO club. That's what the alcoholics do, get them a job where they can drink all the time, and I loved it. And I wasn't far from the barracks. I was in the MPs, and if I got too loaded, they'd come get me and take me back to the barracks, and it was ideal for an alcoholic like me. And after I got out of the Army, I met my beautiful wife. Her name is Marilyn. We've been married 39 years. Yesterday was her birthday, and I gave her a box of fish. And I got that look that I used to get when I'd come in so drunk. It's nice that I don't get that look anymore. My wife was very responsible, and she thought enough of me that she went to the library and she looked up everything she could find on the disease of alcoholism. She went to Al-Anon one time. She didn't like it, but she kept her little book and she read it every day. Every day. And once in a while she would say this to me. First she would say, Dave, you know, the only problem we ever have in this house is over your drinking. And of course what I'd always say, if you sold fish, you'd drink too. She didn't know anybody else that sold fish, so didn't have anybody to compare me with, you know. Anything to keep me drinking. And that's when I'd come out, oh, I can stop anytime I want to. I've never missed a day of work. I started my 41st year on the fish truck, October the 8th. I've never missed a day. Even doing all that drinking, well, the reason I never missed a day was it's hard to call in sick when you're the only employee, you know, you can't. And I had to go, and I'd get up in the morning and feel so bad, you know. And I had a big freezer, man. I'd go in a zero in there and open that freezer up and just stand there for about 3 or 4 minutes and let that cold hit me and fans blowing on you. That will wake you up. Enough to get me going to the next stop till I could get through. And see, I wasn't going to drink anything that day till come maybe 6 o'clock at night. Well, I'm done. See, I never drank when I was working. I loved that. I could always wait till I got done. And wherever I was when I got done, Madison, North Vernon, Seymour, Indiana, wherever it was, that's where I started drinking. And see, I got 5 big refrigerated trucks, and I know every spot in that truck where beer will not freeze. And here I am rolling down I-65 with all them highways thinking, hey, have I got it made? Look at these big refrigerated trucks. I carry all this beer with me all the time. I can drink anytime I want to. Then when I get home, downstairs, I got my own little ice box down there. I had me a little spout, you know, put in the half barrel in there, and I can't do anything except sell fish, so I get my neighbors to come over and install that thing for me. Man, we got the draft beer. The day we got that installed, I shot downstairs. It was a real hot August day, and I was out there mowing the lawn and getting as hot as I could so I could just drink all the beer I could drink. And I come downstairs, and there's my wife down there ironing, and she says this to me. She says, Fishman. Now, when she says Fishman, it's not good. She said, "You've hit the pinnacle of success. You got your own beer tapper." She said, "Why don't you lay on the floor and open your mouth and I'll open the spout?" Well, you know what I said? It'd be a great, let's let it run all over me. That's the disease of alcoholism. I stayed in Seymour, Indiana every Monday night, and every Tuesday when I got home, I would not go home. I'd go to Rockies or the nearest joint where we would all hang out. My wife knew I was home. You know, when you're driving a big Mack truck with your name on it, it's hard to hide it, you know what I mean? And she knew where I was every Tuesday when I got back, and she would call down there or have one of the kids call and say, "What time are you going to be home?" And I'll say, "I'll be there in a half hour." That's what every good alcoholic says. My intentions were good, but see, at this time, there's one thing I did not know. I had no defense against the first drink of alcohol. And I want to tell you something, when you have an active alcoholic living in your home, especially as a spouse, this is what happens, you start to pull apart. And the reason for that is being alcoholics will lie to you. They will lie. If anybody ever told me I'd be unfaithful to my wife, I'd have said they were crazy. There's no way. But see, when you're pulling apart, and I was unfaithful to my wife, that killed me. That's why I couldn't sit in that church. I look at that mirror, I look over at Tim, man, I go, "What's that? You're crazy. You're crazy." But see, when I was drinking, everything I did was justified in my mind always. Well, if you're being treated the way I was being treated, always justified. Amy, my daughter, is also in this program. She has like 9 years. And she used to say to me after I was sober, she said, "Dad, you know what? Every night that you were out when you were drinking," she said, "I cried till you came home." I said, "Amy, if I had known that," because I love Amy dearly, I wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. See, because still I had no defense against the first drink of alcohol. Things got so bad in our house that my wife took me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. She'd heard about it. And I went, because I was so far in the doghouse. And I was up at St. Matthew's, up over the old A&P store. This is how long ago that's been. And it's called the Colony Way group up there. And on a Saturday night, and I get up there, and I know a lot of people up there from Jeffersonville. There's a lady speaker that night, and everything she said, man, I could relate to. She said, you know, she would do things when she would drink she wouldn't even think about doing when she was sober. That's me. And she started to drink and she couldn't stop. And I said, "Yeah, I understand that." And my wife looked over at me, she said, "That's the worst story I've ever heard. You're not like that." I said, "I know it. Let's get the hell out of here." And see, and on the way down those stairs, I remember this, when we got into the car, I said this to my wife, "You know what? Anything I really set my mind to in my life, I've been able to do, and I'm going to set my mind to stop and drink. I'm going to use that willpower I got." Let me tell you something. Will got drunk every time I did. See, because still, I didn't have any defense against the first drink of alcohol. Didn't know anything about alcoholism. Didn't want to know anything about alcoholism. I saw this someplace a long time ago and said, "It's once you learn, after you know it all, that counts." I just knew one thing. When I got up each morning, I thought of this: what day is it and what time do I get to start drinking? Because wherever I am, I'm going to start. But first I get all my work done and take care of my wife and kids. And I did take care of them. But I couldn't be there a lot of times, see, because I had started drinking and it'd be hard for me to get home. And that's what this alcoholic did. I love my wife and kids. And you know what? It's so nice for the joy in our home. The kids are gone, you know. I heard this little story a long time ago. It was about a doctor and minister and rabbi, and they were discussing when does life begin, and the minister said life begins at the conception of the child, and the doctor said, "Oh, no, life begins when the child comes out of the mother's womb," and the rabbi said, "Oh, no, he says, life begins when your kids leave home and your dog dies." Our kids are gone, our dog died, and My wife and I, at age 63, we bought us a new home. That's crazy. That's crazy. We sold our old house where we raised the kids, and we have us one on one level. We've got a beautiful home. See, because we want to live. We want to live. That night that I went to that meeting, and then I didn't drink for a week after I told her, that I was going to really stop drinking. And I went to my doctor to get I hadn't had a physical in 18 years, 1972. And I go to my doctor, and he's not there, and he's got another doctor in there, and he said, Dr. McKechnie's on vacation. I'll give you a complete physical. I said, fine. And so he does. He said, I want to see you in my office. So I walk in his office, and he says, how much do you drink? I said, a few beers now and then. He said, don't lie to me. You drink more than that. I said, who is this guy? Who is it? Well, you know what I did, don't you? I found me another doctor. He said, your blood pressure's extremely high, and your liver. He said, you drank more than that. But I did find another doctor, and he didn't say anything about my liver. He didn't say anything about my blood pressure. And my wife wanted him to give me, the stuff to keep me, that if I would drink, I'd get sick, but he wouldn't do it. And I didn't like not being able to sit in that church. And I didn't like not being able to drive over that bridge. And I was becoming very paranoid. But see, I still worked every day, and I was first, took care of that, and I take care of my wife and kids, and then I'd go over 3 or 4 days maybe and not drink, but knowing in the back of my mind that I would go back. I would go back once I get everything smoothed over. October 11th, 1983 was on a Wednesday, but the Tuesday night before that, I had just come back from Seymour, like always. I still have my uniform on, still in the truck. We meet at Rocky's to eat like we did every Tuesday night. We'd eat. My wife would say, we're finished eating now. We're going home. What time are you going to be home? I said, I'll be up there in a half hour. I was the co-host of Rocky's every Tuesday night till they closed. I knew everybody in there. And see, this night my oldest son was there, David. David writes here for the Courier-Journal. He's called The Incredible Inman. If you read that on Sunday morning, that's my son David. And he's a fine young man. He's a member of Al-Anon. He's the last one in our family to get into a 12-step program. He has a year and a half. And David said, Dad, we're going up home. What time are you going to be up there? I'll be up there in a half hour, Dave. And I got there at 1:30 in the morning. I pulled my Mack truck up, take my shoes off, sneak in the house so nobody know I've been drinking. That's what alcoholics do. You put them air brakes on, I woke up the whole neighborhood. There I go sneaking. That's pitiful. And see, that next morning, Wednesday morning, see, I want to make sure I got it before my wife did, because I didn't want to see that look of hurt that's reserved for us alcoholics. But I got up, and there she was sitting out there, and she said, do you know what you did last time? I did what I do every Tuesday night. I'd go to Rocky, I'd stay there, I'd come on home. She said, you promised your son you'd be up here in a half hour. I said, I did, and that's when she said, aren't you sick and tired of being sick and tired? And I said, yes. And you know what? I look back over that was like 28 years of stuff that just kind of all finally just come together. And I shot out of that house, I went down to my office because I don't have to go on the road that day, and she came down to my office and she said, if there wasn't something that could be done for you, I'd feel sorry for you, but there's something that can be done for you, and you know it. And I said, call AA, and she said, no. You call them. Well, man, I was stuck because there she was and there was the phone. But at about 8:05, October 11, 1983, I picked up that phone and I dialed Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God for Bill and Bob. Thank God there was somebody there on the other end of that line. And they answered, and I said, do you have any early meetings in any place? Because I have to get up early on Thursday morning. And I want to... She said, yes, we have one at 6 o'clock at the Token 3 Club. It's called the Tape Topics Group. And I said, thank you. And I hung up that phone. And I don't know, I felt something. Just a little something like, God, maybe I turned myself in. Maybe I've turned myself in. And I hung the phone up. My wife came over and she put her arm around me and she said, Dave, you got so much good in you. She said, I hope someday that you can realize that you have the disease of alcoholism and you're not a bad person, you're a sick person. Maybe this can be the start of something for us. And I cried. See, but by noon, I was saying to myself, why did I tell her I'd go to that meeting for? I'm okay. God, if I'd have got home a half hour earlier last night, I wouldn't have to go through all this. That's the way alcoholics think. But you know what? When I got home, she said to me, are you going to that meeting? Well, sure, I'm going. If I can find it. It's in Louisville. And this new Oldsmobile, man, I was so proud of that thing, you know. And, I remember coming across the bridge, the old bridge, not the new bridge, on the way out there, and I knew I wouldn't find this place, and I'd be darned if I didn't pull up right in front of the directory of this. Sit upstairs, and I walked upstairs, and 6:05, October the 11th, 1983, my life started. Because that's when I walked into that Tape Topics group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God they were there. And I heard a speaker that night on a tape. His name is Ray O'Keefe. He's an alcoholic just like me. And he said he didn't have any power over alcohol. He was powerless. That word kind of hit me. And but I kept looking around that room. I wanted to see everybody in there and see what was in there. And they play the tape for about a half an hour, and then they discuss it. And you know what? I understood what they were talking about. And it felt good. I understood what they were talking about. And I can remember when the meeting was over, they all got up and held hands and said the Lord's Prayer. I hadn't said a prayer in so many years because I was so unworthy. That felt good. I was walking down the stairs and I remember something that Martin Luther King had said. I don't know why. He said the time is always right to do what is right. And I felt like I'd done something right. And I got home that night, my wife said, well, how'd you like it? Oh, it's great. Are you going back next week? I'm going back to that same group. I didn't drink that whole week. I don't know why. Because I know why I was going to smooth things over. But I went back that next week and heard the last half of that tape. And there was a lady there. Beautiful woman. Huge woman. Had the most beautiful face. She said, you know what? You like that tape so much. She said, you come back next week, I'll give you that tape. Well, she tricked me. And I came back, and she gave me that tape. And I didn't have a tape player, and I walked, at that time, across the street over to the Consolidated Sales was over there and bought me a tape player. I'd been there 3 weeks and spent $50 and hadn't even had a drink yet. Then I started going 2 times a week. Then I started going every day, sometimes twice a day. Because I discovered something. I discovered I could start my life over again at age 51. God, what a deal. Start my life over, get rid of all this. And I'd be able to do it if I didn't drink one day at a time. I remember I got home one night from the meeting and man, I was Mr. AA because the first 9 months I was there. I won't tell you, I was in everything and every place, and the kids used to say to their mom, all Dad ever talks about is Alcoholics Anonymous. You're sick of hearing it. And my wife, she told me that. I said, you know what? You don't understand. I get to start my life over again. This is, you know. But my sponsor and I, we talked it over, and finally I realized that I was very enthusiastic, which is okay, you know, but there's a time and a place, and that all worked out real well. And they seen me change. They seen their father change. Amy, my daughter, after I was sober a year and a half, she came into AA because she said, Dad, I saw what happened to you, and I knew I was going to be there. And she's still here. The 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, Norman Vincent Peale said, The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous bring people closer to God, and when you get closer to God, anything can happen. And I always say, I came to, and I came to believe. Because I couldn't believe anything when I came here. The higher power that I knew always talked of Armageddon, and I didn't know I was worthy. And I want to tell you something. When you get to where you think that you're not worthy, this is what you find out. You are worthy. If you can just say these 3 simple words, God help me. I need some help. When I was finally able to say that to another human being, what a relief that was. You're talking about a load off your shoulders. I need some help with this booze. It is extraordinary how extraordinary the ordinary person is. We all come here, we're all extraordinary people. God don't make junk. We're all extraordinary people. We suppress this goodness in us all the time. And then when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I just finally started, coming out. And man, it felt good, It says that love is good for those who give it, and it's good for those who receive it. Here we give you unconditional love. We keep saying, you're welcome here. On the way over here tonight, I was thinking about the little guy I despised the most in high school. His name was Bobby, and his dad owned a spot called Husband's Retreat downtown. He got to drink all day long and play the horses all day long, and I never did like Bobby. 30 years later, I became his sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous. He showed up, and we went together every place for a year and a half, and Bobby decided that for whatever reason, he just could not give of himself anymore to this simple program, and he went back out, and he hung himself. And it hurt me because, cunning, baffling, and powerful, this disease is. And see, the guy I despised all those years was the most gentle, loving man I'd ever, God, how gentle he was. When I first brought him up to the Token Club, and he said, I can't hold hands and say the Lord's Prayer. I'm still shaky. I'll shake. I said, they need to be shook. Hold hands with them. They need to feel that shaking. And see, Bobby's wife told me, she said, I don't know why you fool with him. He's not worth it. And I said, oh, God don't make junk, Shirley. He's a sick man. He's a sick man. The longer I stay here, the more I realize how important all you people are to me. I've got a little book at home. It's called The Children's Letters to God. And this little boy writes to God, and he says, Dear God, thank you for my new baby brother, but what I really wanted was a pony. And he said, I've never really asked for anything. You can look it up. And see, all those years I thought, I don't want God looking up, I don't want him looking up my file. But see, when you can say, Dear God, I need some help and I want to do the right thing. You get that help, and it's called grace. I don't understand it, but I know one thing. If you ask for it, you'll get it. It's just that simple. You just have to ask for it. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous, it speaks of spiritual awakenings. I came here poor in spirit. I think we all do. I think that's what gets us here. And the First Presbyterian Church in Jeffersonville, where I go every Sunday morning after I go to the 9 o'clock taped Metro Traditions group at the Token Club. I go to church and I look at that mural up there, and the minister there knows what that mural means to me and his wife, and it feels good to sit in there. Because you know why? I can understand what they're saying in there, and they're saying the same thing we are here. Love one another. Alcoholics Anonymous wants you to be the best recovering alcoholic you can be, so that you can help another human being. That's our purpose. That's all we're here for, to give ourselves to another human being. Ann, a little girl, in her letter to God, she says, Dear God, I think of you sometimes even when I'm not praying. Signed, Ann. I think it's beautiful. See, because I never thought of the Good Shepherd or higher power, but I do now. I must say 20 times a day, thank you, God, just for little things. But see, that's that conscious contact. And hey, I can't do all this stuff right every day. I can't do it all right every day. But I know how to forgive today. I'm learning how to forgive. And I'm learning, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I'm still here to learn. And I'm still here to share. I got 3 beautiful grandkids, man. They're something. They've never seen me drink. I even quit smoking through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And let me tell you what happened. I had the flu, and my other son, Steve, was getting married, and we were going to his wedding up in Michigan, and I was sick for 5 or 6 days, and I didn't smoke. And I told my wife, something good's going to come out of this. I think I'll stop smoking. Then I told Steve, then I told my other son, then I told Amy, so I started blowing off, so I had to quit. I told everybody. And I got up to South Bend, Indiana, which is right next to Niles, Michigan, on a Saturday morning, pouring down rain, and man, I was looking for a meeting because I hadn't been one all week. I'd been so sick, and I found one on the Notre Dame campus on a rainy Saturday morning. Walked in there, there's 11 people in there, all of them smoked. But me, hour and a half meeting, not an hour meeting. And I didn't smoke. And I made it through the reception and everything, not smoking. I knew I was going to be okay. You know why? Because each morning I said, dear God, please help me not to drink or smoke today. Like I did with it, asking it for help with the drinking all that time. Fear of them bridges. We were in Charleston, South Carolina, my wife and I, and we flew down, and I rented a car, and we were going into Charleston, and I want to tell you something. I had only been sober a year, and it's flat down there, man. I went way off in the distance. You could see the most bridge way up in the air, and I'm going, look at that. God, I was driving. And see, they're so high so the aircraft carriers can go underneath. And I got to that bridge, and I stopped the car. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I want you to drive over this bridge. I cannot believe that you stopped and told somebody that you were afraid. And I did, and she drove over that bridge. 2 years ago we were down there, and I couldn't wait to get a car to get to that bridge, man. I was going to fly over that sucker 2 or 3 times and show them. Wasn't no fear, and man, I went over that thing and got into, on a Saturday morning, got into downtown Charleston, found me an AA group, you know what it was? An all women's meeting. I said, you can't keep me out. You got to let me in. I know the rules. They let me in. I shared that story about that bridge, see, but no fear. No fear. 3 years ago in October, in the Presbyterian Church in Jeffersonville, Indiana, I walked my daughter Amy down the aisle for her wedding in the church I couldn't even sit in. And we were in the back waiting to go in, and I was holding Amy's hand. And she said, Dad, are you afraid? And I said, no, not as long as you're holding my hand. That was a beautiful thing for me to walk my beautiful daughter down the aisle with no fear. No, but if I had been drinking, see, there's no way. I knew I'd have ran out of there, right in the middle of walking up there. These are things that I've received from the Good Shepherd and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. By doing what is suggested, by simply trying to do the best I can do each day. And remember, the most important thing, I found out what the secret was after I was here about a year. God could and would if he were sought. God does not make the terms too hard for those who honestly seek him, it says in our book, the chapter to the agnostic. I didn't read that, I wasn't agnostic. But I went back and read it. See, all those, yeah. That's the secret. Alcoholics Anonymous is a powerful program. It is to me. It gave me new life. I want to tell you, it's nice to be reunited with your family. I'm a part of that family today, and I'm a good part of it. And we have a great time together. My whole family practices the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous because my wife has 9 years in Al-Anon now. Amy has 9 years in AA. Steve's got 8 years in Al-Anon. My oldest son Dave's got 1.5 years in Al-Anon. If anybody ever told me that would happen, I said they were crazy. If anybody ever told me that I could stay sober and not wake up in the morning in that panic and saying, what day is it and what time do I get to start drinking, I would have said they were nuts. My father looked like Bill, our founder. And my father was a lot like Bill, because Bill would always say, whatever somebody did, he would always say this verse, God bless them. God bless them. And see, that's what we say to you if you go out of here. You have to go back out for a while and you come back in. God bless you. God bless you. But the message is still the same here. We need you. We want you. And you get to make the choice. But if you haven't tried any of that grace, I would suggest that you ask for a little bit of it. Life is to enjoy, and that's for you, and that's for me, and that's for everybody in this room. I didn't know that. God don't make junk. I didn't know that. God just wants me to be happy. I didn't know that. I'll tell you a little story. We started a halfway house for women in New Albany called the Heading House, and it's still over there, and we've been a lot of gals go through there. We've had babies born to get some of those gals. And I went down there when we first opened up the house, and I was looking for somebody. I wanted to give them a little donation, and I wanted to give them some food, and I did find this girl, and I had been sober about a year, I guess, and she said, you know what we really need is a roll of paper towels, a case of toilet tissue, and stuff like that. I said, okay, here, I'll be back tomorrow with all that. So I come back the next day with all this stuff, and the little girl helped me unload all of it. And I started to walk away, and she said, where are you going? I said, I'm leaving. This is what you want? She said, I got to have a bill for this so I can show it to the board of, how much stuff we're using. I said, okay, we'll give you a bill. I said, it's $240, and we'll itemize everything. And you know what? I left that house. I went straight back to Jeffersonville and opened up my post office box, because a guy had owed me $250 for 3 years. Open that box up. There's that check. I go, what? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do to me? It's in the giving that we receive, and it's not the giving of the material. It's the giving of ourselves. The giving of ourselves. In 11 years, I've seen a lot of families reunited. I was over here one night to speak for a guy. I never will forget this. And I got a phone call one Saturday night from the central office that somebody was wanted to talk to somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I called this guy, and he was crying on the phone. And I went out to see him on Sunday. I took 3 guys with me, man. I mean, 3 of the top men in AA. They were dressed just right and everything. See this guy, make this call on him, and the next day it was okay. He forgot about the call the night before. A year later, I was at the Baptist hospital where I go every month so I could share with the patients, and there he was. He remembered me. He said, "You're that fish guy." I said, "Yeah, that fish guy." And he said, "I remember you coming to my house." And I said, "I'm glad to see you in here." And he said, "I think I'm going to give up." And I said, "It'd be a whole lot easier if you do, But anyway, he had a year, and he asked me to come here and speak for him. I never will forget. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. And there's a sign in my sponsor's office that says, if at first you don't succeed, you're about average. It also says, don't walk in front of me. I may not follow. Don't walk behind me, because I may not lead. Just walk beside me and be my friend. And I want to thank y'all for being my friend and loving me for 11 years and giving me this beautiful life I have today. And I want to tell you how that happened. If you hang around, you better watch out how. So good today. That's the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you very much. And the Fishman's still an alcoholic. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for a fine message. We have no dues or fees, but we put them in these baskets.